guys, but for a lot of my life, I was in pursuit of something. Be that the meaning of life or the next big life-expanding thing to do, right? So the next training, the next course, the next country to visit or business idea to try, I did a lot. And it's a beautiful quality, one that I truly appreciate in myself and everything it's opened up for me, as I'm sure it has for many of you. I'm sure we have a lot of go-getters in the room. But the way I had been going about this, I realized as I was accumulating passport stamps and accolades and certifications in my life, the way I was going about it was leaving me a little bit empty in my soul. So my name is Kristen, and I'm really into soul journeys. So today I hope to take you on one, and it's a journey less about doing and more about being. So it's a journey, woo, yes, let's hear it for that. It's going to be a journey a little bit more back to the truth of who you are. So I was obsessed with human potential and the philosophy of mind even as a kid, which definitely made me a bit of a nerd. I would stay up late at night reading this book, this existential book called I Am a Strange Loop, and trip myself out in the darkness trying to imagine the experience of not existing at all. It was totally overwhelming and a little scary, but something about the vastness of that feeling really drew me in. So later on, after college, the real-world options presented to me didn't really entice me as much as I had hoped they would. I didn't feel to go into clinical psychology, and I couldn't really hold down a corporate job because I kept quitting each summer to go teach English in summer camps in Italy, until finally I realized that I could just go and live out there. Light bulb moment. So I moved to the Czech Republic to teach English, and then I moved to Chiang Mai and got my first online job. And at that point, I had achieved the Nomad dream. I had escaped the matrix. Yes, but. At that point, I was still really imprisoned by my mind and the success paradigm that I grew up in. I was chasing achievement, success. I was seeking external validation. Nothing was ever enough for me. So I didn't realize it, but I was really stuck in the same level of consciousness and programming that I've been in for my entire life. If you had told me, by the way, that years later, a tarantula the size of a dinner plate as my roommate and nearly bedmate would be a part of that shift, I would have said you were totally nuts. More on him later. And bonus points for anyone who can spot my little nomad doggy in all the slides, that she's in. So I'd like to invite you all to just close your eyes for a moment. Like really close your eyes. And just take a few breaths. Breathing in, breathing out. I want you to notice what your mind is doing as you breathe. And see if you can just bring it back to watch your breath. Just feel the sensations, what's happening in your body. And just notice and ask yourself, what is that thing that's breathing? And what is the thing that's bringing your mind back to your breath? You can go ahead and come back. You know, consciousness, to put very simply the greatest mystery known to mankind, is really that which is holding space for all of our awareness, our perception, our thought and experience to occur. Of course, it's the study of lifetimes of practice and study for yogis and mystics across the ages. So we're going to do our best in the time that we've got. But yeah, you know, our human consciousness is inherently limited, and that's a really good thing. We're bombarded by unfathomable amounts of sensory data as we move through the world, and our brains can only process about 0.00005% of that. So we need a filter to navigate the world with any kind of sanity. Babies don't have this filter. They're like little Buddhas. They're in this fully expanded state with raw perception of reality. But as we start to learn language, as we start to grow, we start to distinguish between concepts and people and things, right? So this is a tree, this is a chair, this is you are you, I am me. You know, as we grow, we start to learn who we are as individuals, take on certain characteristics as our personality, and kind of develop this fixed sense of self in the world. We develop beliefs about the world based on our experiences or stories that we hear, and those beliefs become our models of reality for experiencing the world. So we might think that we're seeing the world as it is, but we don't see the world as it is. We truly see it as we are through our own personal perceptions based on these models of reality that we develop. So when we speak about expanded states, I mean, it's a million definitions for this and what this means, and it means something different to everyone. But in one sense, it's loosening that construct of our ego mind and our certain fixed models that we have, and being able to access a higher state where we're able to really see new possibilities, connect back to who we truly are, to feel our essence, to allow life to move through us freely. And side note, you might wonder, who is this girl to talk about consciousness? Has she sat on a mountain somewhere, reached enlightenment? No. Promise you no. I have not. And you don't have to either. This is not about going to some ashram and reaching enlightenment or becoming a shaman in the jungle, right? This is about, like, I'm just a human on my journey who's found some beautiful tools for inner work that help to expand my life. So I had achieved this nomad dream about 12 years ago, but I was still imprisoned by my mind, right? I was still chasing this carrot on the end of the stick of success. And yeah, just never really feeling enough. So yoga first cracked me open when I went through this gnarly breakup in Bali that propelled me into literally 100 or more classes of yoga in my first month of ever practicing. So that, yes, I lived on the mat and I died on the mat many times. After that experience, a simple breathwork class or cacao ceremony started catapulting me into these deep healing states, meeting my ancestors, meeting my spirit guides, having this big heart openings like I'd never experienced. I started going to silent retreats and connecting to all this creativity underneath the noise. I started to soften and open and to release my grip on doing, to start to feel a little more trust in life. I even accidentally took a pilgrimage on the Camino de Santiago when I was Googling day hikes from Lisbon. It was really epic. I never planned. I literally went to go buy a backpack and I was like, cool, let's do this. And I didn't realize that it would be the most spiritual and initiatory experience of my whole life. And my first experience with entheogenic plant medicines was also completely unintentional. I hadn't planned to take psychedelics because I had this fear of my own headiness. But after innocently looking for dessert in the freezer in my shared house in Boulder, Colorado, where else? Finding some chocolates to eat, you can guess that it was time for all of that to change and really open a new connection with the mystery. Not joking. So cultures through history have worked with expanded states for reaching higher levels of insight, healing, intuition, and connecting back to source. So from the Native Americans working with drumming, vision fasts, sweat lodge, to Amazonian shamans working with sacred plants, ayahuasca, the Eastern traditions of meditation, pranayama, breathwork, et cetera, meditation. Onward we go. We see that through history, humans have had this inherent desire to explore deeper dimensions of our experience here. I told you guys that niching was my strong suit. These are some of the pathways to expanded states of consciousness, some of which you may have worked with and explored, some of which may be new to you. And I wish I had time to go into each and every one of these. But the point is that working with expanded states of consciousness, there's no hard and fast rules. And ironically, it's not about finding more things to do or to add onto your list. It's actually about finding a pathway to reach your stillness within, to connect to a greater field of energy outside of your own mind. Right? To hear the voice of your mind and to start to shift your inner patterns, to release the heaviness that you're unknowingly carrying so you can connect more to your true essence and your true being. So what I learned on the healing path is our being naturally wants to come back into a state of balance. We're made to process and digest life as we go, not to hold on to traumas or hold on to sticky experiences and replay the same stories again and again. Right? But life is kind of like a spiral, and we do tend to find ourselves in similar situations again, or similar patterns or relationships at different times in our life. And I believe that's because we move in a spiral way, right? We're naturally always evolving and expanding. And life gives us the opportunity to respond to situations in new ways as we go. So yeah, you can even think about your own life, some places that you might have seen recurring patterns and where that might be coming from, and have you been responding to them differently? Because that's how we actually transmute and change things in our lives. So for me, as I started working with yoga and meditation, breathwork, it really opened up this floodgate of somatic healing. And then, learning to journey with sacred plants and work in ritual and ceremony helped to uncover a lot of the underlying patterns that had been ruling my life. So we're going to try to keep this section pretty short. If you're wondering what happens to the brain in expanded states of consciousness, yeah, it's like this. we tend to see, with these practices, we tend to see a reduction in the default mode network of the brain, which is where we store our ego, our models of reality. So it's where these ingrained thinking patterns are coming from. It's the default mode. So when this part is reduced and lifted, we're able to re-access a state more like when we were children. We're able to see the world as it truly is, feel this deeper sense of interconnection, feel creativity, higher potentials. And we're also able to move out of ingrained habits or, things like anxiety and depression and OCD. So we're able to form new neural pathways that help to create a new way of feeling and being. Just as you can see here in this diagram, this is a study from the Imperial College of London with participants after placebo and psilocybin. A friend of mine, when I shared this diagram with her while practicing this presentation, she said that diagram freaked her out a little bit. It's like too much brain activity. So you can choose your pathways as you wish. It's not necessary to have extreme experiences, but we do see similar activity in the brains of yogis and meditators over time. And we see as well neuroplasticity. So the expanded states help our brains to become flexible and malleable again, like when we were children. So it's easier to learn. It's easier to change our habits. So when it comes to healing, healing, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, it's about holing. It's coming back to our whole essence, right? Recalibrating and reclaiming the parts of ourselves that might have fragmented off or fractured during traumas, or parts that we've repressed. And so I always remember this experience I had in a Tantra training doing a reparenting exercise. The two practice partners that I had, they took the role of my parents, and I was a little baby. And they held me and whispered these loving words and gentle touch. And I really viscerally felt these soul parts coming back that needed to feel that integrated masculine and feminine care and love. And after the exercise, literally everyone in the room was viscerally different. It was a very powerful experience. So shadow integration is another thing that will come up when we're working with expanded states. Anything that we're rejecting or repressing in ourselves, it's going to come out sideways, always going to come out sideways. We're going to look at it and see it out in the world as something that triggers us, something that bothers us, something that we hate, and we're going to think that it has nothing to do with us when it has everything to do with us, right? So anything that's triggering us is something unowned, is something that we haven't claimed or looked at fully in ourselves. This is why work with expanded states is often very effective when done with a guide that can help us to see our blind spots, to somatically process, to feel our feelings in our bodies, as these states tend to allow us to bring up emotions that may have been repressed and held in the darkness. So we can think of our states of consciousness like a ladder. The higher we climb, the greater perspectives we start to see. So at the bottom of the ladder, life can feel really scary and our problems are really big. We might be reacting to life kind of in that victim mode. Life is happening to me. Why is this happening to me? But as we start to climb the ladder of consciousness, do our inner work, expand our state, we have a higher perspective. We can see a higher vantage point. Life's challenges become more like a game, and we connect more to our creativity and to our inner power. So this is obviously where we want to be. But I do want to speak about integration, because if you just take the magic elevator to the very top of the ladder to see everything, that's wonderful, and that can be a beautiful, expansive experience, but how are you going to integrate that into your life? You have no idea how many people I've seen come to Peru to work with plant medicine and have soul awakening experiences after ayahuasca or San Pedro and meet God or become God, etc., and then have zero tools or support to integrate this into their lives. So what really changes for them, right? This just becomes a magical experience that they had, or they then believe that they're meant to go and become a shaman, which is really not what they're supposed to be doing. So integration is so key. Through daily practice, through daily commitment to find a way of connecting within that works for you. The chakra system I include here as the energetic counterpart to what's happening here. Don't have a lot of time to get into it, but we're working at the energetic levels as well to clear our centers and allow emotion and vitality to move more freely. So I was in the Amazon jungle for 10 days in isolation, living in a little hut, doing a plant dieta, which is a space that you create working with a master plant of the jungle alongside with ayahuasca under the guidance of a shaman. And I'm living in this hut alone in the jungle, and this big giant tarantula decides to move into my house. And he had this little spot that he loved right above my bed, like really right behind my bed. He wouldn't leave. I kept having the guy of the retreat, the keeper of the retreat center, gently take him out, and he just kept coming back in. So super arachnophobic. It was really, it was a big surrender. I had to really surrender to that. But ultimately, this creature really became my teacher, because we have to change our relationship to the world from within if we ever want to see anything change on the outside, right? So I had to sit with my fear, with my repellence, with my discomfort, and all the things that tarantula brought up, in order to transmute that and really have a compassionate relationship with this living being. He really kind of became my friend in the end. And yeah, it's the same with life, right? Like, we can scratch at the projections on the screen all we want, trying to get rid of the flaw. But until we go within and actually clean the film that's making the movie happen, we're not going to see any change. So really bringing the unconscious into light and seeing the part that we are playing in creating our own reality. So the truth is, we are all brilliantly creative beings. I know a lot of people have hang-ups about creativity. I'm not an artist, I'm not creative. No, we're all brilliantly creative, and we're all creating all the time. That's actually our nature, because our experience, every experience that we have, is internally generated within the perception of our consciousness. Like I said, it's coming through our own filters, and we are creating meaning from the experiences that we have. And so, think about the results, the experiences that you're having in your life. Are they being created unconsciously, or are you creating consciously? We've already seen how the increased neural connectivity helps to promote innovative thinking, problem solving, creative flow states. But when we're working in expanded states of consciousness, it also helps us to access this quiet space within, the higher intelligence where inspiration actually comes through, right? You realize that all of your best ideas, your creations, they don't come from the thinking mind. It doesn't come from trying to figure things out. But it's when you get out of the way and allow life to move through that creativity can flow. So this allows us to, as well, become a clear vessel for the visions that we have to come through us, and to ground our energy so we can make the intangible manifest, which is what creativity is, right? It's taking energy, taking ideas, and turning it into something. It's an incredible gift that we have as humans. Working with expanded state supports all of this. I want you to remember as well that there is not a tree in the forest or a plant in the forest that is struggling and striving to become better than what it is, right? There's just simply an inherent trust in the nature of the seed and the potential of the seed, that it's going to thrive and become its best self under the right conditions. And we're the same way. Why would we be any different? We're meant to allow our innate natures to thrive. This is why healing and creativity go hand in hand, because as we start to uncover the underlying patterns, the underlying programs that have been unconsciously running our lives, we open ourselves to step back and surrender and allow life to move through us. We start to create and respond to life in new ways. And we see that as a creator in our life and a creator in the world, because truly this is all interconnection. With expanded states, we start to recognize our interconnection with everyone and everything. We see this responsibility. And it's a key thing. Responsibility is not a burden, right? Responsibility is the ability to respond to life. So we have this responsibility to manage our thinking, to stay open in our hearts, to take care of our bodies, of the earth and each other. And you see as well that you don't do the world any favors by hiding or holding back your gifts and your passions, but you actually do your best for the collective by allowing yourself to flourish and thrive to the best of your ability, to really support the whole biosphere. So just take a moment and think about that. You can close your eyes if you like. You don't have to, but really think about, what are the gifts that you feel that you have to offer the world? And what are you here to express? Can you feel that energy of life expression wanting to flow through you? What does that feel like? How do you know when you have that urge to speak or to sing or to write or to pray or to spend time with loved ones or animals or be in nature? How do you feel the impulses moving through you? As you start to explore expanded states, I simply invite you to find ways to be in silence, find ways to feel your breath, be with nature, be with the richness of nature, make art, make music, move your body the way it wants to move, make sound. These are all immediately portals. It doesn't have to be a big, massive psychedelic experience or meditation leading to enlightenment. It can be, but these other ways are perfectly valid as well. As you start to work with these states, you'll see that you're interconnected, as I said, with everyone and everything. You're not alone. And we also can't shut ourselves off or separate from the shadows of the world because we're all one being, right? So as you do this work, as you unearth your own shadows, as you expand into more of who you are, you become a part of that for the world. We become a part of that for the world. So in the end, I'm still on the journey, of course, just walking each day with the intention to stay grounded, stay present, to be in service, to hang out with my neighbors, be they alpacas, tarantulas, nomads, or the beautiful people, local people in the lands where I get to spend my time. I'm still a doer and I'm still a seeker, and I don't think that I'll ever kick the training addiction and certification addiction, if I'm honest. But these days it comes more from a place of wholeness within and a curiosity for life rather than an endless striving for more. And so the last thing I'll share is just to really contemplate the nature of life and consciousness. We have to embrace wild paradox, right? For us to have joy and pleasure and love must be the existence of grief and pain. And for the light to exist, has to be the darkness. For the nomad freedom lifestyle, we have to have the matrix, right? One can't exist without the other. Thank you, matrix people. Thank you, people putting in your time. So we're each just a tiny, tiny, tiny drop in the ocean, right? But we are also, at our core, the entire sea of existence within us. It's a true fact. And we seek, we look, we go, we explore the world just to come back deeply inside of ourselves to find something really special there. So for me, it took a 14-year nomad journey to really learn where home truly is. And it's a very important thing to know. So I also realized that eternal darkness, that vast space that I had contemplated before and after life when I was a kid, that wasn't nothing. It was everything. As am I, as are you. And so when we can learn to tap into the gifts of that space while we're here, we open limitless new possibilities for ourselves and our communities and the collective. Thank you.